This is Born Strategist, and in this video, I'm going to be asking, as well as answering, the following question. How much do video games cost? Now, I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have talked about this particular issue over the years, and everyone has their opinions. But for me, I think of it this way. Now, if there was going to be some sort of agency, for example, that could potentially regulate this sort of thing, I think it would be in the best interest of the consumer simply because, let's be honest, there's a lot of games that are coming out that aren't really worthy of their initial price point. Granted, you can always wait, and some of those games may in fact drop in price, but some don't. And generally, they do maintain their price points as long as they're particular games of popularity, such as Call of Duty or maybe Grand Theft Auto. Granted, we've seen some price drops, as time goes on for those particular games, which is good. But for a while at least, they do maintain a high price point. Now, granted, some games such as that are really worthy of that initial price point. For example, I paid $60 for Grand Theft Auto 5 on multiple occasions because I bought a 360 version. I bought a hard copy for the Xbox One, and then I just recently got a digital version for the Xbox One. And that game is definitely worthy of the $60 price point. But there are some games that aren't really worthy of that price point. Now, when you look at other games such as Star Wars Battlefront, you have to ask yourself this question: is it really worthy of a $60 price point? Now, obviously, it's dropped in price now, but when it came out, they still charged $60. And that's not even including the deluxe edition or the digital deluxe edition or the ultimate collector's edition or where the fuck the name is of these goddamn packages. But it was a pretty expensive game considering that you didn't get a lot with it. Meaning you didn't get a season pass, you didn't get any guarantees that you'll get some additional content. It was essentially just whatever it was at the time that you bought it, which was just a standard edition copy, which didn't have very much. Granted, they gave you the Battle of Jakku for free, but still, there's a lot of other content that should have been there initially, but wasn't. Okay. Now, there's also some other games I can't help but mention. Even though I may like them, I have to be objective here and I have to say, hey, you know what? This isn't an appropriately priced game. And one of those games is Dead Space. Now, obviously, it's dropped in price significantly since its release, but when it came out, it was a $60 game. And to be honest with you, it wasn't really worthy of that initial price point simply because there's not a lot of replay value there. Okay, once you play through the campaign once, that's pretty much it. You don't have to play through again unless you're like a really hardcore fan that wants to play through it again. Now, they could have included maybe like a cooperative aspect to the game, which I think a lot of people would have said, oh yeah, it would have hurt the survival horror aspect of the game, which may be true. Or they could have incorporated a horde mode or whatever it is, and that would have, increased the value of the game and made it worthy of that initial price point. But they didn't, okay? And for that very reason, it's not really worthy of a $60 price point initially, okay? Now, obviously, it's dropped since then, so obviously you can get it for a lot cheaper, and they just recently had it for free for gold members on the Xbox One or for the 360, considering that it is a backward compatible game. Now, there's obviously some other games out there that are definitely worthy of a $60 price point. For example, Mass Effect 3. I played the shit out of this game. I love this goddamn game, and it's probably my favorite game of all time. And the reason for that was simple, was that it had a really good campaign. Okay, it was a very fulfilling campaign. It had a satisfying beginning, middle, and end, and I thoroughly enjoyed every aspect of the campaign. And this has come from a guy who doesn't really like a lot of campaigns in games today simply because they are so linear and they're so uninteresting and the stories are very bland and boring and it's just I can't get into them. But this was the exact opposite of that. It was actually very intriguing, very interesting, and the fact that you can customize your character and make particular decisions was awesome. And that's something that a lot of games definitely need. So kudos to BioWare for that. Now, on top of all that, you did have a 4-man cooperative horde mode mixed with objectives. So that was always great because you can go ahead and team up with all these different character classes and enjoy yourself by utilizing whatever weapons you manage to pick up as a result of some random crate drops. Okay, so this essentially was Desi before Desi even came out, but it was a great game. I had a lot of fun with it, and I can't wait until Mass Effect Andromeda, whenever the hell that comes out. But to get back to my initial point, Mass Effect 3 was definitely worthy of a $60 price point, and I only got it for $40 because it was on sale at the time that I got it because I didn't get it initially. Okay, I was playing Mass Effect 2 at the time, and I was trying to get caught up, so don't judge me. Now, aside from that, there were other issues I had with some other games, but let's just go ahead and get through this and get back to the initial question, which is how much should video games cost? Now, if you were to ask me, and I was in a position of power to where I could make these decisions, what I would do is this, is that I would make it to where video games would have to be placed in the hands of video game reviewers first before they would ever even come close to shipping. And I mean like maybe like a month in advance. So that these review companies have a opportunity to go ahead and do reviews, thorough reviews, and they have a sufficient amount of time to do so because some of these games are very time consuming and it's not something that you can just get done in a couple of hours. Sometimes games could take, a day or two or maybe even three or a couple of weeks to complete depending on the game. And for that very reason, reviewers need sufficient time to do them. Okay, because you have to play through the game and then you have to do the review, which is a whole nother, time sensitive issue that I have to get into later. But the thing is that in order for you to get a fine-tuned polished product to the consumer for the appropriate price, you need to be able to appropriately critique it. You have to be able to review it to determine whether or not it's going to be a $60 game or a $40 game or whatever it is. And that's how my system would work. Essentially, if you were to, do a review for a game, okay, and there was other people within the industry that would also do reviews for the game, what would happen is based off the final scores of those reviews would determine the initial price point of the game. So for example, it would be a very simple scale of 1 to 6, meaning that if a game got a 6 rating, which is the highest and which is the best, then the game would be priced $60. But if it got a 4 out of 6, then it would be appropriately priced at $40. Or if it was a 3 out of 6, it'd be $30. You get my drift. So the thing is that that's how video games, at least in my world, would be appropriately priced. That way it would give game developers an incentive to actually try harder rather than giving you the least amount of effort for the most amount of money. And we commonly see that within this industry far too often. But then again, people like me that are in favor of consumers' rights don't really get much of a say because if that were the case, a lot of these corporations wouldn't be able to, profit as much as they do. Not that I'm against companies making money. I'm against companies being very greedy and bleeding consumers for every goddamn penny they have. That's where my problem lies. With that said, what's your thoughts? What's your opinions? What do you think? Let me know below. Until next time, thanks for watching. And for more objective reviews, strategy guides, commentaries, and more, stay tuned to this channel.